Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
Before we get started today, I want to tell you about something near and dear to my heart, and that's the Free State Project. If you go to fsp.org/join, you'll learn more about them. What's the Free State Project? They're practicing what people preach when it comes to liberty. It's a historic mass migration of more than 20,000 people who pledged to move to New Hampshire for liberty. If you go to fsp.org/join, you're going to learn more about it. Currently, over 4,000 people have already moved. It was founded in 2001. Within 2 years, 5,000 people have joined. Liberty lives in New Hampshire. This is your chance to live with people who share your values and are working to make liberty happen. They're a tax-deductible, nonprofit charity. It's not a political organization. They don't endorse any political parties or candidates or legislation. Learn more about it at fsp.org/join. I know personally like a dozen people who moved to New Hampshire to fulfill this pledge, and they love it because this is New Hampshire's motto is live free or die, and they're practicing what they preach. New Hampshire is beautiful. You've got the urban areas, you've got the rural areas. Kristen Tate, my guest last week, she's from New Hampshire. She thinks this is a great idea as well. The important thing is if you go to fsp.org/join and learn more about the Free State Project, you'll see what a great idea this is. Good afternoon. I'm Michael Malice, and let that be your welcome for the next hour. We have as our guest today one of the very few people who I like to listen to talk about anything. We have author and cultural critic of my old Red Eye sparring partner, John DeVore, one of my favorite lefties, an unorthodox lefty.
Why would I be unorthodox?
Because you have no problem engaging with people on the right without getting butthurt.
It depends on who I'm engaging with. If we're talking about you, I love talking politics with you because A, and it's something I wanted to talk about when I got here, was your politics are interesting to me, A, and B, I respect you within reason.
Okay. I wish I could say the same.
Oh, is that how it's going to be?
Yeah.
How about this? I like talking politics with you because you amuse me.
How about this? Are you dressed like Cameron from Modern Family on purpose?
Look, I am happy. I am currently on an employment sabbatical.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just happy I dressed myself.
What did
I'm feeling a little awkward because I've not had to talk to someone face to face.
When you are
weeks.
Unemployed or self-employed, as I am, the first thing to go is the hygiene.
Sure.
Are you showering less than every other day?
Well, yeah. So maybe every other day, but I do little splashies.
The French. Yeah.
I do the thing that people do in movies where, I put my hand under a faucet and I pat my face.
Okay, washing your face. Yeah.
I spend just a lot of time watching TV and writing crazy things and hanging out because, as you know, media is a total and complete shit show.
So let's get to that first quick. What do you think is the worst thing about media nowadays?
What do I think is the worst thing about media? Off the top of my head, I think that journalists and media companies get rightfully criticized. They should be criticized. But the worst thing about media is, look, media is a business, right? It's always been a business.
Yes.
The First Amendment doesn't guarantee a right to a business. It just guarantees the right to be able to express yourself and write things, etc. The market sucks because the American people suck. We would have better media if the market demanded it. We would have more fair, more honest media that covers stories fairly if the market wanted it. But the market doesn't want it. The market, on Twitter, confirmation bias. Right. That is a needlessly pedantic way of saying people like to be told what they want to hear.
Yes.
The entire Fox News business model is based on that. The market, the people criticizing media, they don't really want to be challenged. They don't really want good media. I think the market is completely broken. I think Americans have their heads up their asses.
You had a piece for Medium.
I did.
That went wide called...
It was called Digital Media is a Wasteland. I think the subtitle is A Prose Poem in 11 Parts.
Okay.
And I wrote it after the BuzzFeed, all those VC media companies began to hemorrhage their talent, right, and lay people off. And it was just, I've been in media for almost 20 years. Like, I've been laid off like 4 or 5 times. It's just part of this business,
sure,
right? I get laid off, I get rehired, new things happen. And partly it was, the article was about some weird memories. I remember one company in the early 2000s, I was hired for a video company about 5 years before YouTube came on. There was a whole race to be YouTube. There were dozens of wannabe YouTube sites. And all of our programming was flopping, mainly because there was no broadband. But all of our programming was flopping, and ultimately the CEO pulled us into a room and said, look, we're going to cancel the comedy, the news, all of it. We're only going to work with street magicians like David Blaine.
But seriously?
Yeah, he goes, we're going to create magic videos. And then at the end of the meeting, he goes, we can win at magic. And we did not win. Boy, did we not win.
That's because you didn't believe.
Yeah,
the trick to magic working is you have to believe, stupid.
So partly it's about some of those memories, and just talking about digital media, and I was pleased with the reception. I got a lot of learn to code, but that's okay.
Okay. I actually solicited people to tell me learn to code, and the people who did it got suspended.
I had read that Twitter was... I got a lot of learn to codes because of Fox News and Red Eye. I'm followed by a number of conservatives, some who I find insufferable, some who... There are 2 in particular who are who I call my Statler and Waldorf conservatives. They heckle me and I listen to them. But I heard that people who tweeted learn to code have been that it's hate speech on Twitter, right?
How does that make you feel?
Look, number one, it annoyed me. But number 2, if you drill into things, if you try to look below the surface, right? What I got from some of the conservatives who were saying learn to code was, hey.
By the way, I don't know necessarily that they were conservatives.
Fine. I'm just painting because
Sure.
it wasn't the Pinkos who were doing it to me. But the story that I got that wasn't implicitly told to me was that there's a journalist class.
Yes.
Right.
Classed?
I'm sorry.
No, but that's a good portmanteau. It's a class and a cast.
Oh, it is a cast.
Yeah.
There is a journalist cast or one of many elite casts. And at one point, they were unsympathetic to working class people, to miners. Never mind my feelings about whether the state should support that industry
Coal
or not.
miners, you mean, not children.
Yeah, coal miners.
Yeah.
And that learn to code was a little bit of payback.
Yes.
Hey, we think that you were unsympathetic to coal miners being laid off and having their livelihood ruined.
And just general American jobs being extorted.
Sure. Yeah. So there was that story. Never mind the fact that I don't think I have ever personally mocked anyone losing their job.
Right.
But that was the argument, and I got caught in that a bit.
Sure. No, but what do you think about the idea that Facebook was suspending people for tweeting?
Oh, it was Facebook. It was Facebook or
Twitter.
Was
Excuse
Twitter.
me. Twitter.
Twitter's a shit show. You exploit it beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
Like there are times when I'm like, oh, Michael's a troll.
Yeah.
And then there are times where I'm like, oh, he's a satirist. I think there's a difference.
Both. I do both.
I don't think they're compatible. I think a troll.
I'm also earnest sometimes.
You are. No, I absolutely think that.
Yeah.
A troll ultimately has a sacred cow. I think a troll ultimately has something that they cannot mock about themselves, or there is an issue that they hold precious and won't ever make fun of.
Yeah, that's true. Like North Korea, I'm not going to. I'm humorous about it, but I'm not going to laugh about it.
Pure satire, I think, requires a bit of heartbreak and nihilism.
Yes, I agree.
Okay,
and I think it's
one reason I think satire doesn't work online, because I think everybody has an Achilles tendon, and a true satirist, I think, first and foremost makes fun of themselves before they...
And I think satire is I agree with you that it's very dark and snide and it's cynical. And I hate cynicism.
You do?
Oh, yes. I hate it. And I get accused of being a cynic often. And that's one of the things that really triggers me.
What would you say is the opposite of cynicism for you?
Someone who...
Is it earnest?
Earnestness. And no, it's someone who sees for me, and this, I love, when I get earnest as a troll, people don't know what to do with it. So they think I'm being a meta troll. I do see a big part of myself as Wes Bentley in American Beauty seeing that garbage bag. I do think we live in a world where there's a lot of beauty. I'll give you an example. I just had to block someone on Instagram over the weekend.
Okay.
One of the things that gives me true joy, childhood things that are precious to you as a child, they can carry over to an adult. So not only is it giving you pleasure now, it's kind of this continuum of your life. For me, it's bubblegum ice cream from Baskin-Robbins. That was something I adored as a kid. I still enjoy the taste. It gives me pleasure to get it. It's just something very innocent and pure in its goodness to me.
Proustian.
Sure. I don't know that. I love the taste too. And you get the gum, you put it in your cheek, you get a big gumball. And I was in Philly over the weekend and posting, I had some ice cream from like one of those fancy hipster places in Philly, which I enjoyed enormously. And someone goes, "Oh, you're finally eating grown-up ice cream, like, and not of that stupid children stuff." And I'm like, first of all, there's no such thing as grown-up ice cream. It's ice cream. It's a distance for children.
It's okay, like ice cream is like Christmas.
Yeah.
These are things for children, and you can enjoy them, but you must acknowledge that they are things for children.
Second, how dare you disparage something that gives me joy just because you regard as juvenile? The idea that you can't have this childlike sense of fun and that's beneath you is like you are, I'm not using this word loosely, you are the enemy. You are the enemy of goodness and you are a horrible human being.
What now let me ask you, I'm going to drill down into your art just for a second.
I'm going to give you another example, then I'll let you.
Okay. All right.
My friend Marcia had this something called cuddle parties.
Sure.
Right, where people get together and cuddle. The first reaction...
They still happen?
I think so. I don't know. The first reaction people have is this is absurd and ridiculous. And then you talk to her for 5 minutes, like people need physical contact. And this is a way to have that. And you have this sense of connection that a lot of people need. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I wouldn't do it, but I get it.
I think we could talk an hour about cuddle parties because they were ahead of their time. Because the first cuddle party, I remember when I was an editor at Maxim, we made vicious fun of it. And that must have been over 10 years.
Oh, yeah. This is a long time ago.
So in a way, cuddle parties also presaged this fragmented social sort of like loneliness that is.
Yes.
That person that made fun of you on Instagram, was that person...
I don't think they were even trying to make fun of each other.
Do you think they were trolling you? Were you trolled?
No, I think they were being chummy.
Oh, okay.
They're like, "Oh, finally you're nutting up, buddy." And I'm like, I'm not your buddy. And you're not going to condemn my love of this thing because you think you're too cool for it, because you're not. And that's the opposite of cynicism. Cynicism is this sneer at like, "Oh, you like this, but that's so
cynicism has insecurity baked in.
I can't speak to that, but
I'm just curious.
But I've mentioned this many times in the show. One of my great heroes is Albert Camus.
Heard of him.
He was called existentialist. He did not like that label. He called himself an absurdist. But his whole point is, cynicism is the soul killer. Yeah. And it's the enemy. And that's what makes you give up on life. And it's like life is such a great, precious thing. I
mean, it's interesting you say that. In that medium.
And you have to be privileged to be cynical. You can't be cynical in like North Korea. Do you know what I mean?
Or adolescent.
Yeah, right.
Which is why I grasped for insecure, because one thing I write about that I've been writing about more often, because I come from men's magazines and gender marketing, or gendered journalism really, is like masculinity, right? And what is masculine? What's not? What's macho? And what you just said about bubblegum ice cream, I think, is a quintessentially masculine virtue, is loving something and standing up for it and loving it regardless of what anyone else thinks, how everyone else, that to me is a quintessential masculine.
Fighting for your values.
Certainly,
Yeah.
the values, but I think that I think sometimes values, people can think of them as these lofty sort of ideals.
I love the idea that we have to be two New York pundits to talk about the masculinity of pink bubblegum ice cream. This is a beautiful moment.
It is, and again,
But I agree with you.
And again, I think that it can also be a masculine energy too. Like if you like pink, for whatever reason, pink bubblegum ice cream, own it.
Yes.
Own it, and you don't need validation from anyone else. In that media piece that I wrote, which is very funny and dark, and this ties back to your cynicism. It's very dark and quasi cynical, but the button at the end of it is essentially, I'm going to keep doing this because I'm good at it, because I love it, and I'm hopeful.
But you're not a cynic.
There are points when I feel very insecure, sure, where I can be cynical. In that digital media piece, I wrestle with it, but really at the end of the day, I loved doing what I do on the internet. I love it. It wasn't cool in 1999 when I did it. Somehow, some people thought it was cool at some point, and now it's not cool again, and that's great. But I genuinely love live writing. I love, I call blogging, there's a saying that journalism is literature in a hurry, and internet writing is literature, with a gun to the head. You just gotta bang it out, and I genuinely love it.
You said you had some questions for me.
Well, it's been a while.
Yeah.
We had lunch a few months ago.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see you when I was still employed.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about your politics.
Sure.
And I have too many questions, but if you were on Fox and Friends, what is your hot take on the president in North Korea? Like, my superficial sort of read is that I am not entirely certain that the first summit produced or moved the needle in a dramatic way. I could be wrong, and I don't know. I'm not entirely certain if this trip is theater or whether or not there are actionable diplomacy is going to happen.
Anytime you get someone like a dictator to get out of their house and leave the country, it's a show of weakness on their part, right? They're leaving their country. Kim Jong-il boasted that Japan, China, Russia were coming to visit him. It's like Hollywood, who goes to whose table? So the fact that he's leaving the country is a big deal in and of itself. The fact that...
Well, I'm sorry, is that your conclusion? Is that something that is mirrored other places? That's a fascinating
Kim Jong-il
to me.
explicitly said, why do I need to leave North Korea? Everyone comes here and kisses my ring. He didn't use the expression kiss my ring, but his point was, I'm the big man because they're coming to me.
So it's like gangster optics.
He's a gangster. It's a gangster regime. I mean, there's a family run.
But just the I just find that fascinating. Okay, so
That's one.
So him going to Vietnam is weakness.
Or even Singapore.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Two, the fact that the anti-American propaganda has been lessened within Korea itself, given that that is the creation myth of North Korea, is that it's the U.S. imperialists who have made this country is riven in two due to our machinations, is a very big deal. The fact that he's publicly musing, remember, they sentenced President Trump to death. Okay? The fact that now he's publicly musing about not having nuclear weapons over the heads of his children, meaning the countrymen, is a big deal. Now, concrete, I agree with you. I want to see concrete results. But if this was going in the right direction, this is what it would look like. And I think it is disturbing that people are viewing this in the context of what does this mean for President Trump. The only lens to look at this is, what does this mean for the North Korean people? That is I'm going to write a piece, I guess, for the Federalist or whatever. That is the only lens to view this. Does this mean they're getting food? Does this mean they're closing down the concentration camps? Does this mean they're getting outside information? Does this mean they're not going to be scared of the knock?
So you think that there is a path to relieving the suffering of the North Korean people?
Yes.
That is not war or radical regime change. That
Well,
there's
it would be
some
radical regime change if they're at all liberalized even a little.
incrementally.
It would be gradually and then suddenly.
Is that okay?
Because once you break that dam, it's going to be very hard to... And the fact that they're demilitarizing the DMZ, which is the most militarized border on Earth, is a big deal.
I did not read that.
Yeah. So they're
That sounds like a huge story. Why wouldn't?
right, removing landmines. I mean, the fact if landmines are being removed anywhere on Earth, that's great.
Yeah, isn't the DMZ like one of the purest animal preserves in the world because no humans have set foot in there for like 70 years or
Correct.
something?
Yeah, it's right. You can't because you're likely to be blown off. And
It's like nature's greatest preserve because there are no humans there.
So, and also what I want to have happen, which has started happening, is reunification of these families who've been separated for decades between the North and the South. People haven't seen their.
So I'm sure the North Korean government knows that probably better than anyone, that if you begin to remove the Jenga blocks, it falls down.
Yeah, Kim Jong-il took the footage from the Romanian dictator Ceausescu's assassination.
Shot against the wall
with his wife. He played that footage for the party cadres literally every day and said to them, if there's a revolution, this is what's going to happen to you. And he did a choking motion with his hand. So they are painfully aware that if things go down, they will have bullets put in them with good reason. And that's one of the reasons he killed his half-brother, because according to North Korean law, the 10 Commandments of the great leader Kim Il-sung, only someone with the blood of Mount Paektu can be the leader. So there's no Mike Pence. So without him having a sibling, you can't take him out, because then who knows what's going to happen. Otherwise, they could have taken him out and put in his brother, Kim Jong-nam, and it would have been fine.
So are these changes, and forgive me for being a fancy-prancy liberal, are these changes, does the Trump administration deserve credit, or is this the result of 60-some-odd years of...
I'll be glad to give everyone credit. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like,
okay,
on the
that's
one
good.
hand,
I think that is...
Number two is, it's undeniable that during the Obama years, North Korea wasn't on the front burner.
Right.
They didn't know what to do with North Korea. And in a sense, you can not blame them, because it's like, what do you do when they have, how many 20 million hostages?
Right.
So the fact that Trump made this issue...
Maintain the status quo is the best it's going to get.
Right, yeah. So the fact that Trump made this his number one international priority is a huge deal. The fact that we're talking about this is a huge deal. The fact that now, in small part thanks to my work, I'll take a little bit of credit.
Take credit.
The conversation has gone from they're crazy to they are evil is huge progress.
Why? Because evil suggests that they're...
rational.
Right.
And they can be worked with and reasoned with, as opposed to we don't know what they're going to do next.
That's a very subtle messaging difference. I hadn't thought of that.
But that was the point of my book and what I've been doing for years, is like getting into people's heads. These people are completely sane. They're just demonic.
More questions. Back to politics.
Yeah.
Just because I don't get the only people I had to talk about it are either conservative crazies on Twitter or my own liberal friends.
Sure.
And I had a conversation the other night over dinner about the Electoral College that made me want to pull my hair out.
Okay.
Where they were like, majority rules. And I was like, fuck me. Where are you on the spectrum?
Full Asperger's. I mean, you knew that already. I'm an anarchist.
I always thought you were quirky. Are you still, what did I call you? Are you still an arachnid capitalist?
Arachno-Capitalist. Yeah, I'm an arachno-capitalist. I believe in a matriarchy.
Yeah, that murders and eats the men.
Yeah.
Once that they have stopped being. Where does that fit in with libertarianism? Just out of, because I like anarcho-capitalism.
I don't call myself an anarcho-capitalist.
What do you call yourself?
Anarchist without adjectives.
Right. Just a straight up anarchist.
Yes.
And how does that? And that's a libertarian.
No. I am.
Help me.
I identify with libertarians. I don't identify as libertarian.
Okay.
I think the word libertarian has many meanings. Some of which would apply to me. Most of which would not. First of all, I don't truck at all with the Libertarian Party or any political party.
Okay.
Libertarianism also implies minarchism, having a minimal government, which I am against.
Because
I don't think that's possible, and I think it's a obscenity. Also, the idea that
isn't an anarchist no government?
Anarchist is no government,
right.
But sometimes less might be worse than more, because you might have to be like. There's also the idea of accelerationism, which is let's make this worse, so then things fall apart. So the idea that like we should gradually go to smaller and smaller in an asymptotic way, as opposed to get worse and worse and then clean the slate. These are two strategies I'm open to considering. And I consider myself someone who's much closer. It's easier for me to defend anarchism than it is to defend capitalism. And I think the anarcho-communists have a lot of interesting and valuable things to say. And they were the first anarchists.
But you are a capitalist.
I'm an anarchist. Capitalist often means, and this is splitting hairs, but it's important.
I split it. I find it fascinating.
Corporatism. The idea like the corporations are going to be running everything, right? And the corporations nowadays, especially, are the devil. Like, what do you think is the worst thing about media in this day and age?
Well, you, through your wonderful trolley Twitter account, introduced me in the wide, wonderful world of media criticism to the corporate press.
Yes.
Right. Which I've thought a lot about, which I find fascinating, which is why when you asked that question earlier, I wanted to blame people for not wanting better information, because information will always be valuable, but we're not demanding better information.
So let's just clear things for the audience. I said we were going to do a segment where I ask you the same question 3 times, and you pretend every time it's the first, and you just said when I asked that question earlier.
Oh, well, no.
You ruined it on the very first show.
I thought, why did you even give that away?
Because you gave it away. You just said when you asked that question earlier.
Well, you didn't ask the same question.
It was the same question. It literally was the same question, John. I don't
think you did it well.
This is why you keep getting fired. You had one job. You had one fucking job.
Why? Well, try it again.
No!
Do it again.
What do I tell it?
Here's the truth is you failed your own joke because you wanted to create something kind of absurd.
Surreal, yeah.
Absurd and surreal are not the same thing.
I know, that's why I corrected you.
No, it would have been absurd. It wouldn't have been surreal.
It would have been absolutely surreal if you asked the same question 3 times and the person with a straight face gives 3 different answers.
No, it'd be absurd because then you're making a statement about the monotony of media and interviews.
No, I'm not.
That's the whole point.
No, it's not the whole point. The whole point is to have the audience question the reality.
Kaufman was an absurdist, not a surrealist.
Andy Kaufman was absolutely a surrealist.
He was not a surrealist. Surrealists don't require context, and Andy Kaufman's entire shtick was subverting context and mangling reality.
I promise you that Tim Dillon next week is going to be able to do this perfectly.
Who's Tim Dillon?
Someone who knows how to be surreal.
Is he a comedian?
Yes.
Oh, wow. How rare and fascinating.
He was on Joe Rogan recently.
Was he really?
Yeah. You've never been.
Great. I don't think I've ever watched Joe Rogan.
Well, some people do. It's fairly popular.
It's a very popular podcast. Yeah. It's an extremely popular podcast.
He's got a show here on this network called Tim Dillon is Going to Hell.
The only show I know on this network is, I don't even know if he has a show here anymore. Dave Smith?
Yeah, part of the problem. He also has Legion of Skanks.
Yes, right. That's why I know this. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry for screwing up your hack bit, but it was an absurdist bit, not a surrealist bit. Why would an
absurdist bit be a hack bit? Hack bits are not absurdist. They're the opposite of absurdist.
It's just hack because it's you.
What does that even mean?
I have no idea.
This is terrible. This is terrible.
Well,
I was so happy that you were coming in because I knew you'd be able to deliver.
On a funny bit.
It's a very funny bit. It would have been. It would have been.
Well, then
and it's going to be next week, and it's going to be with Ron Coleman.
We were having an honest conversation. I did not know.
You did know. We talked about this at length before the show.
Where are you on the spectrum?
I'm a 10. I'm at a 10, motherfucker.
So even minute little changes in the plan kind of just throw you off.
Yeah, betrayal does throw me off.
Did you see what I did as betrayal?
It's not betrayal.
Did I betray you?
Yeah, there was deception. You were basically
all right. So you Twitter DM me that you were going to ask me the same question 3 times.
Yes.
Right. Because you thought it was going to,
and we discussed it ahead of the show.
What made you think? So you just wanted you just wanted to be subtle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like with the show title and my co-host on Nightshade.
You have a co-host on Nightshade?
Yeah, it's a rotating giant sponge, and people don't know what it is, and you're not allowed to explain that it's a sponge.
That's
people think
Lynchian.
it's a meteorite.
That is Lynch. So is the interview over now?
No, it's not. I mean, just
that's too bad.
just emotionally. Dead to me.
What's your favorite ice cream?
I have 3.
Yeah?
No,
What
it's
are
Big
they?
Bubblegum. It's my favorite ice cream.
You see, you could have taken that opportunity to been like, oh no, my favorite ice cream is obviously Rocky Road.
Why would that be obvious?
Because I just asked you a second question, and you could have responded with a slightly different ice cream.
It's not funny when it's like a one-word answer. It's funny when there's an answer that's in depth, because then it adds that element of surrealism.
Yeah, absurdism.
Sure.
There's
What's
there's a
absurd
difference.
is thinking you could be
There's
funny.
a difference.
Even when the fucking script is written for you.
I'm sorry that I failed you, Michael.
You failed yourself.
I-
Congratulations. You
look,
played yourself.
I fail myself all the time. I'm very comfortable with failing myself. I have a
Apparently.
healthy relationship with failure.
And you have no guilt.
I have none whatsoever.
You're a
I am
sociopath.
sorry that I failed your big Andy Kaufman moment.
You did. You did. You're no Jerry Lawler, motherfucker. And you never will be with that attitude. You know what his nickname was? The King.
Oh,
He was the King. And you're the 3.
I hope you hold this against me for the rest of our relationship.
What, for the next 20 minutes?
Oh, is that... That's longer than I thought it would be.
Okay, so you did have questions for me.
No, I exhausted them.
That was it? The Arachno-Capitalism?
I have no more interest in you.
Yeah.
I have none whatsoever.
Right. So
My little troll.
I am a troll.
I know you are.
And
You're a conflicted troll.
Oh, okay. Let's hear the psychoanalyzing.
It's not psychoanalyzing. I have no idea who you are personally.
You have some idea.
I just know your output. You're a troll. And we were talking about troll
Sure.
versus satire, and you're a troll.
Yeah. But how am I conflicted?
Well, you have a sensitive side.
Sure.
You have an earnest side.
Yeah, very much.
You have a set of
angry
values and
side.
beliefs.
Yes, that's very much true.
And you also are, a snickering little jester, and you like to upset people.
Oh, I adore it. Yeah.
Why?
Because I think people, first of all, it's funny when people are turned into performers against their will or without their knowledge. That's the basis of trolling.
All right.
Number 1. Number 2, we are so focused on, in general, on presenting a persona of ourselves as we'd like to be perceived, which is an insincerity at base. It's fun to drop that mask from other people and watch what's been bottled up inside. And that is almost always very entertaining. I love my Heshy socks. You know I love my Heshy socks. And you know all the nonsense about Valentine's Day? If you go to heshysocks.com and use promo code WELCOME30, you get 30% off. HESHIsocks.com. HESHI socks. What they're doing is they want to flip the script and remind you to treat yourself. Not yourself, yourself. We use the word "you" correctly on the show. The day after Valentine's Day is the biggest breakup day of the year. So this year on Valentine's Day, treat yourself and treat your feet with Heshy socks. Here's why they're great. Maximum comfort, cushion in the footbed, the heel and the toe. They're like pillows for the feet. They've got arch support in the center of the foot. Now they're made with high-end Pima cotton. Why is that good? Because it's highly absorbent, breathable if your feet sweat. It's antimicrobial. It kills the bacteria and keeps your feet from stinking. They've got a bunch of different styles. They've got the basic stuff. They got the fashion stuff. You wear them with dress shoes. You can wear them with sneakers. They have got styles for everything. And the thing is, they don't wear out like a lot of these other socks. Having a fun pair of socks is like having a friend. I think I haven't had a friend, but maybe one day I'll have a friend. But until then, I have my Heshy socks. HESHIsocks.com, promo code WELCOME30.
Would you see yourself as a supervillain or a superhero?
Well, I have a comic book written about me, so I am very much a supervillain.
I did not know that.
Ego and Hubris by
Yeah,
Harvey
I know.
Pekar. You did
I
know
know.
that.
I know
Yeah.
that. I know that. I just wanted to see you light up.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see the true Michael.
They want to call you a cuck for not knowing who Tim Dillon is.
This
the
is my
chat
first.
room.
This is my first time in this studio.
Well, he's very famous.
I don't. How do I say this? Watch a lot of comedy.
Okay. He's a good guy. Well, I'm just reading
Great.
from the
I'll
chat
check
room.
him. I'll check him out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if he's on your show that he must be very funny.
Well, that's not usually been the track record so far.
I'm and very intelligent.
0 for 2, buddy.
I can't wait not to tune in next week.
Let that be your welcome.
What is this show even usually about?
What do you mean?
Do you do that same 3-question bit every time?
No, this was going to be the first time.
Okay. Well, I'm sure the second time it's going to kill.
Well, I was so excited because I thought you'd be so good at it.
Yeah, it's just a different interview energy, man.
What does that mean?
I didn't come in here with any kind of artifice. I mean, comedy is a performance, and I sat down and I'm like, you know what? I didn't perform.
Specifically asked you.
I know you did, but then we got on. But like, you know, all battle plans fail once contact with the enemy is made. You know, like
I don't know what that means in this context.
it means that we sat down here. I looked into your beautiful eyes.
They're blue.
And we got okay, and we got we started having a real conversation, and then I got a little loose.
Yeah.
I got a little loose. I don't talk to people. I'm sorry. I'm not getting paid for this shit. How is it?
Now you're definitely not getting paid.
Oh, there was a surprise payment?
Yeah, there was.
Is there really?
Yeah, well, you're going to get this mug thrown to your fucking head for free.
I hope Tim Dillon.
Merchpump.com.
Oh, wow. I'm not going to get my very own You're Welcome. You know, you spelled
t-shirt.
You know, you spelled that incorrect.
Did I? It's the producer. He's from Australia. They spell differently there. I keep telling him, and he just keeps writing the letters upside down, as is their wont. With Russia, it's the backwards R. Australia, it's the upside down R.
So this comedian that's coming on next week, I hope he's watching because he's going to have, the bit's going to be, you're going to ask him 3 questions.
No, I'm asking him the same question 3 times.
Okay. Here, let's do a little rough rehearsal. All right.
Yeah. What do you think is the worst thing about media?
The people who consume it.
That was your first answer.
Right. Well, now we're starting at 1. The worst thing about media is clearly that there has been a generation of journalists who have been taught to think it's a religion, and it is not a religion.
What do you mean by religion?
I learned journalism as a trade. I came to the city. I was a temp. I became a receptionist. There was a job opening as a fact checker.
Okay.
I was taught fact checking.
Oh, like Bright Lights Big City.
But for like a trade magazine.
Okay.
You know, and then I had a job. The way I got an editorial job is the guy said, go and find 3 errors in today's New York Times.
Oh.
So I spent 8 hours poring over. I found like 2 copy errors, right? I didn't go to J school. There's an entire generation, I think, of journalists who have been taught that they're superheroes.
Firefighters, yeah.
Right. When it is finding good, verifiable information is always valuable. And that's the job. And I think that there is a generation of journalists to whom they think that they are doing that work is above them or is below them.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I think is the main problem with media.
Yeah, and the irony is that they regard themselves as superheroes and they have no or little idea of how much contempt the layman has for them.
Sure. Look, there is an old cliche in movies of a journalist at a dive bar, right, with like firefighters, and that's because that profession once upon a time was a working class profession.
Oh yeah, it was low class. It's not held in esteem.
Right. When I would go into publishing and I'd meet all of these rich kids who were able to, who got cushy internships, I realized that J school for many of them was like law school that wasn't hard.
Or it's like Exeter.
You know, right? But
boarding school, yeah.
But it's like, you know, it was a good job at a dinner party.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not my experience.
Right.
But I think there's an entire generation to whom journalism is this elevated profession, and I think it's important, but I don't think it's. I don't get why it's not, you know, again, religion. It's not.
It's Molly Hemingway, who I adore, just recently had a tweet. You don't like her?
It's not about like. I do not know Molly Hemingway. Molly Hemingway's. We followed each other for a little while.
Oh.
We used to have.
Did you fuck up one of her jokes?
No, we used to have pleasant DMs. Our politics diverge dramatically. Sure. And I don't, at Twitter, I get it's a performance, it's a living. It's, she certainly has become very popular in a certain political sphere.
Sure.
I just, I don't consume the opinion journalism always that but that's not to say I don't consume other conservatives.
Who unfollowed who first?
I think I unfollowed her.
Ooh.
But I thought that was merciless. I mean, I didn't block her. I didn't mute her. I still read her. But that algorithm, I didn't want to, I think the shittier thing is to follow her and mute her. I just unfollowed her because, and you know what? She's probably not interested in things that I have to tweet. But I also...
Well, can you blame her?
But I also don't want to particularly fight with her because I don't...
She's great. I
don't
great.
have anything against fucking Molly or her, I guess her husband, who I also unfollowed.
Heminator.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything personal against them. It's just, I don't follow their politics.
But I mean, as far as conservatives go, I think she and Fred are great. Mark,
that's your opinion.
I said Fred, yeah. Okay. I mean, as far as there's most conservatives, I think, bring nothing to the table. Nothing. I think they're different.
You think those two are different?
Molly especially.
Why?
Fred doesn't. Mark does. No, it's Heminator is his handle. I forget if it's Fred or Mark.
I think it's Mark.
It is Mark. Yeah. I think she is open to. She's not a talking points person.
Right. And look, she gives hell.
Who's Mark
to
Hemingway
the
then, in that case?
MSM.
Yeah.
Right. And again,
I also
learn the code aside. The MSM, the mainstream media can take the criticism.
I also find it very useful for me to follow people who are religious, informed, and articulate.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
She brings that, and that's something is kind of foreign to my thinking, and I'm interested in that worldview.
I had a lot of religion growing up.
Okay,
I find but I get that. I mean, look, when Trump was elected, and all my friends were like, "This is not normal," right?
Correct. That's indisputable.
But I was like, it sort of was. I'm like, we all live in this like one big house, and there's a big room up there where there are evangelicals, and in the other room these people are in your house, whether or not you choose to see them, engage with them, talk with them. This is politics. We're all trying to figure out how to live together without murdering each other en masse. But, the evangelicals, like my granddad was a Baptist preacher. I grew up with just a lot of that messaging. Like they were,
right. Okay.
They
were
very
different for you.
They were powerful in my world.
Yeah.
Like when I made fun of them, when I chose not to be religious, they were the Goliath, and I think evangelicals right now see a world that is changing very quickly. And they're having to make compromises I think they might regret one day in order to hold on to political power. Because I think a lot of evangelicals have an existential outlook on America, that their backs are to the wall.
Yeah.
That they're,
So who else do you not like on Twitter?
So I don't like. I continue to follow you. Sometimes I even give you a little fave.
I'm awesome.
I probably consume...
Wait, I got it. I know what I have to ask you.
What?
In 2004, I was part of a 5-person panel for either the Daily News or the New York Post. I don't remember which one.
Mm-hmm.
And our job was to watch the presidential debates and have our comments. And of course, I said George Bush won, even though he was not even speaking English against Kerry, just because I knew it would piss people off. And a buddy of mine at the time had the paper, and he sees my picture and he sees my commentaries, and he's eating the cereal, and he's just like... And it kind of ruined his breakfast, which is something I enjoy even 15 years later. What was your reaction when you saw that Trump Jr. followed me?
That was such a long setup. You are a comedy genius. I did screw up your 3 questions. I saw that on Twitter, and then I immediately saw it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, I'm so happy when a friend of mine is genuinely happy.
Was that really the thought process?
You know, I knew you would love it, and to a certain degree, Michael.
Yeah. Yes, John.
You know, in as much as you are a weird little man,
I am.
Just a bizarre short stack of neuroses.
Yes, I am. Sure.
And sometimes you annoy me on Twitter.
Good.
Certainly. And I have to catch myself. And I'm like, do not fucking reply. He's a crazy person.
He is a crazy.
Your politics in that whole realm that is not corporate, liberal, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I enjoy that you're a little smarter than a lot of the people who follow you. I knew you loved it. And it amused me that the president's son, in that moment, found an ally that emotionally moved him.
Yes.
You emotionally moved. And I found it oddly...
Testify.
I found it oddly humanizing.
Praise him.
I found it humanizing.
Okay.
Because here he is with
on his part or on my part?
On his part.
Okay.
Bearded, sweaty, daddy issues, divorcee, you know, constantly getting barraged by criticism, also having his butt kicked. Like, he's obviously in, you know, that's an emotional bubble to be in.
Sure.
And there he goes, following little Michael Malice.
Yeah.
Like, for a brief moment, it was a connection.
Yeah.
You were connected.
Yeah.
To a future criminal.
A smooth criminal.
I found it very humanizing on his part. I found it very humanizing because if I am to give the Donald Trump Jr. the gift of humanity, I would assume his social media experience, his media experience is one of constant hostility, whether it is warranted or not.
Every meme is him behind bars.
Right.
Blah, blah.
So it fits in the Trump family playbook to punch back harder.
Yes.
So he does that, but he's still a human being. And he's constantly barraged. And I don't know why he followed you, but clearly in his head, he went, perhaps this is a friend.
Yeah. I am a friend to all people.
Perhaps this man will like me.
For many years, I had aquariums, and I'm an expert on marine aquaria. I would recommend people not get an aquarium, especially a marine aquarium. Here's why. When you get that rare fish, every morning you wake up, you're in terror. And you go to the living room to see if it's survived the night, right? Because it's tricky. This is my Twitter experience now, waiting for him to unfollow me. Like every morning, and I've stopped checking because I don't need those panic attacks.
Well, maybe in the best possible scenario, you one late night get a DM from him. That's essentially, for a moment, Michael, allow me to take my mask off.
Do you know how tempted I am as a troll to slide into his DMs and say, "What up, my N-word?" and just have that screenshot knowing in this check that he saw it. That it's dangling in front of me. Like,
it would be even better if it was the 3 dots.
And there's a Twitter account
just on the off chance that at a moment of weakness and alienation, Donald Trump Jr. goes, oh, "I've received a DM from my friend Michael Malice." Perhaps I should trust him. Perhaps I should give him my heart.
Perhaps he is my N-word as well. There is a Twitter account called Trump's Feed, which just is a bot, which whenever any of the Trump family members follow or unfollow someone, it sends out a tweet. So if he unfollows me, everyone's going to know immediately. And here's where the earnestness.
But you have high profile, like, hardcore Trump supporter followers.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Like, what's his name? Schlichter.
Kurt Schlichter. We're good buddies. He's been on this show.
He does Nightshade.
He's been on Nightshade, correct? Yeah. He's been on You're Welcome. We had a great episode. He's a good conservative who I think there's hope for him in terms of. I think he's almost most of the way there.
To true conservatism.
True conservatism.
What are you talking about?
To being red-pilled fully.
Oh, to being red-pilled.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I love The Matrix.
I'm doing the audiobook right now, and they told me for my book, The New Right.
Oh, I thought you meant I was like the Matrix is made.
Recording the audiobook, and they said you can make any changes you want. So now in the audiobook, the Matrix is referred to correctly as a documentary.
Yeah, it was a very important documentary,
Yeah.
The Matrix.
It holds up.
The movie?
Yeah, I just watched it. It holds up.
It never did.
What?
It never did.
It's because you're so blue-pilled.
It has one of the great zingers in sci-fi.
But I know Kung Fu, that one?
No, the whole stupid fucking zinger that he's in a cocoon, that reality isn't reality.
That's not what a zinger
zinger.
is.
That is a twist. That is the movie's primary
A zinger
twist.
is a one-liner, a humorous one-liner. You don't even know humor when you fucking look at it.
I have never been on a radio show by
This isn't a
Rain
radio
Man
show.
or whatever it is.
You don't, this is a
That's right. It's being
podcast.
recorded. Right. Okay. Whatever.
We're
okay.
broadcasting
All right,
live.
Rain Man. The Matrix is an okay movie, and now it is a toxic political philosophy.
It's only toxic if you're made of cancer.
Well,
Like chemotherapy.
oh,
What's that mean?
chemotherapy.
Yeah. It's sad when people get it.
Well, no, it's promising. You could have a cancer that is resistant to it.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So chemotherapy is hope.
I've had a couple of fans who were like, your tweets help me while I'm battling cancer.
100%. I have lost family to cancer, and dark humor is an absolute tonic. 'Cause
It's very upsetting to me that they think just because they're that sick, they get a reply. The fuck you think you are? You're an evolutionary dead end.
oh, look at that! You are a troll.
Herbert Spencer, baby.
You will make
Who's
fun of
Who's Herbert Spencer?
You know, he is a social Darwinist.
Yeah.
Who coined the term survival of the fittest.
Correct.
It's been misunderstood, you know.
Correct. How?
I forgot that part.
Survival,
How?
survival of the fittest doesn't mean the fittest should survive. It's that in any environment, it's the fittest that inevitably do survive.
Do you have any other questions for me, Michael?
I do.
What is it?
I've got a few questions for you. We've got another 10 minutes to go.
It feels like it's been 2 hours.
Oh, imagine it from my perspective.
I don't know. You've got. I've allowed you to talk.
You know, I regret the same.
What other questions do you have?
What do you think is the worst thing about Trump's America?
I'm having a moment in my life about Trump's America
Oh,
because I'm really tired of the. It's a lot of energy to
Yes.
hate.
yes.
And I find him. I find it recently kind of poignant that he sits on the toilet or wherever in the White House and tweets, and no one gives a shit. Like, you know, clearly the Republican Party sees him as an end to a means to an end.
Yeah.
Right. They clearly think that he is a useful idiot of some sort or another.
Okay.
But you know, he is far more complex than the liberals give him credit for. And I fear that he could win in 2020. You brought up 2004, right? And 2004 was a heartbreak for me. You know, I'm opposed to military intervention in Venezuela. I was opposed
yes.
in Libya.
Amen.
I was opposed. You know, people forget that Iraq and Afghanistan, like we're talking, like what, 70% of America was all for that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like that was scary. Like the vast majority of this country was like, go, go, go.
Whose fault is that?
Bipartisan.
The press.
The press, the
Loves
Democrats, the
war.
Republicans. It was the majority of this country, including the former Democratic nominee for president, supported that war.
It is demonic that when Trump bombs Syria, all the talking heads are saying he's finally presidential.
Oh yeah, that was.
That is disturbing to the core.
But that was a shit show to me because that was disturbing, and the fact that he did it was all of it was
Sure, but the point that people don't realize is the cheerleading that is crosses party lines for attacking other countries.
Oh,
is
they love
so
it.
thoroughgoing.
It's very American.
Yes.
we love blowing shit up.
Yeah, it's how we celebrate our birthday.
In 2004 was a heartbreak. And I realized, because I was creating a lot of trolly anti-Bush parody.
Yeah, what was that website you had?
It was called whitehouse.org.
Yeah.
We got millions of people came to that site thinking it was the White House. And then they found out it wasn't. I realized in 2004, though, that all of my liberal friends, including myself, thought that George W. Bush was stupid.
Yeah.
You know, John Kerry was so sure he was going to win that when that Swift boat stuff came out, which was hard-nosed, desperate political warfare.
Which was Jerome Corsi, who's now under investigation by Mueller.
He was, but like when that came out, and it was hard-nosed and it was punching below the belt, but the Kerry people were so above it and they ignored it. I realize that the Democrats will tell themselves things. One of them is that George Bush was stupid. And clearly, he's not a moron. He's not. And he was surrounded by smart people.
Oh, that's for sure.
And when you underestimate your opponent, you just set yourself up to lose. And I think it is really, you brought up, I think, the difference between, crazy and evil.
Oh, yes.
I don't think Donald Trump is crazy. I know that the liberals love to say, he has dementia.
Right.
Or he's out there, he's losing it.
Right.
I don't think he is a dumb person. And I think that if the Democrats are smart, they will run a campaign against smart people. He is a guy who knew that if he rolled into West Virginia dressed like a New York billionaire, the people of West Virginia would be like, oh, well, thank God he's not eating fried food on a stick.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, thank Christ he's not wearing jeans and acting like he's he's showing up looking like who he is. Right. That's smart. That was smart politics.
Yeah.
So that's where I think Trump's America is, complicated. But I don't want to underestimate him. He drives me fucking crazy. And he is an amazing troll. He is an incredible Twitter troll.
Yes.
Unreal. I quote tweeted him the other day and I was just like, why did I do that? I'm a loser. I'm like, why did I fucking
Did you delete it?
No, I didn't, because there's another part of me that was like, you're doing it, John.
You're taking on the president. He saw this.
Yeah, that's going to be the tweet that's going to wreck him. He's going to read that. He's going to go, oh, John DeVore?
Trump is finished.
Yeah, right. I'm like, you're the leader of the resistance. Yeah. Such a loser.
Here's a good example of that, is Elizabeth Warren. He is forcing her to look like a loon because she thinks he's a moron. And it's taking him at face value.
Yes,
here's the three acts. An entire year, Pocahontas, take this ancestry kit. I took the ancestry kit. Who cares? Yeah. That is trolling. He literally said, who cares? He spent a year asking her to do it, said he'd give $1 million to charity if she's the nominee and does it. She does it. He goes, who cares?
But also, you've seen
the football.
She has had in the past rare moments where I think that she's able to talk the pinko talk without pissing off Wall Street.
I agree.
Which is an interesting trick to pull.
Yeah.
But her team's inability to resist that bait when it would otherwise, I think, rot on the vine.
Yes.
Shocks me.
It's got to be her. Because she took that test in secret, remember? And she chose...
Oh, was it in secret?
It was in secret. And not only that, they didn't even test for Native American DNA. They tested for Chilean and like Venezuelan DNA. So it wasn't even Native American. It wasn't even testing for that. And she chose to release it. It was completely an unforced error and demented.
He is especially good at that.
Yeah. He even said that. He said some tweet about her during the campaign. He goes, I drive her nuts, ! He called it.
And he also understands, it's one reason the baby boomers, man, he also understands that this has nothing to do with policy.
Correct.
And it won't have anything to do with policy until a large enough percentage of Americans feel some kind of pain.
Yes.
George W. Obama won for many reasons, but one reason he won is 2 wars and the economy jackknifing.
Yes.
And those 2 wars, a lot of Republicans were sending their sons and daughters. And so they felt the pain.
Yeah.
And so this is all going to be a circus, unfortunately, I think, until a large enough group of Americans are like, we don't we don't like this.
It's never going to happen. Yeah, because Americans hate circuses as a rule.
We love circuses until there's pain.
Sure.
And I don't want pain.
Who's your candidate?
In 2020?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I hate them all. I don't hate them all.
Don't.
I don't hate them all. The Democrat Civil War between the millennial leftists and the establishment,
Sure.
right? And I'm Gen X in the middle, is so tedious to me.
Okay.
At least in the Republican schism, they fight with knives and they fight.
Right.
The Democrat, I don't.
Well, Amy Klobuchar brings a knife.
The campaign against her,
that's Democrats leaking that info.
it's crazy to me. It's crazy. Yeah, I had that thought the moment I started reading about the Sanders airplane, private plane links.
That's campaigns.
Bananas to me, and it terrifies me because it makes me also think that these are the same people who are like Hillary can run again.
Oh God, I would hope that.
I look, for me, Obama was never the transformational president.
My sweet Satan.
Trump was.
If Hillary runs again, I will give to you John DeVore's soul. I know it's of little value because it's so filthy and unused, but this I promise to you.
Oh, a prayer to the Dark Lord.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I really, I'm hoping somebody shows up.
There's got to be people that you like because they're not all the same. Some are much better than others.
You know what I'd like? I'd like a slightly more pinko Jim Webb.
Jim Webb's a lunatic.
Yeah. I like Jim Webb I will, because of my upbringing.
So you like Tulsi?
Because of my upbringing.
Okay.
I was raised a Southern Democrat.
Yeah.
Right. My dad worked for a Texas, the last Texas Democratic senator.
Okay.
I will forever have
John Connolly? What was his name?
Lloyd Benson.
I know Ted Kennedy. John Kennedy. You know John Kennedy. Yeah.
Right. Whose legacy is the most popular political snap of all time.
Yeah.
I will always lean towards Southern Democrats in a sort of, who I like of all of the midterm losers. I do like Stacey Abrams.
I think she's great.
Yes.
And
I like her more than O'Rourke or Andrew Gillum. She's the only loser who I'm like, I think she should have won, and I think that she should be.
I saw an interview that was going viral in right-wing circles about her on CNN because she had kind of switched her issue on gun control, right? And she kind of backpedaled. And that's a tough question to ask because you have to lie. And I thought she tap danced very well. I thought she came off very intelligently. And I thought this woman has a big future ahead of her. I'm not surprised she lost because it's Georgia, but she really has some future ahead of her, in my opinion.
A Southern Democrat is going to be able to talk about guns and
she doesn't come off like a loon.
Right. Anyone, the non-Southern Democrats, when they talk about guns, they're really playing the fear card. And yes. I don't oppose many forms of gun control, but at the same time, I acknowledge that the Second Amendment's not going anywhere, and that there is a such thing as gun culture, and that I've got family with the vast majority of gun owners don't belong to the NRA. The overwhelming majority of gun owners don't belong to the NRA. The overwhelming majority of gun owners are responsible gun owners, and a Southern Democrat traditionally can spin that. Yeah. But I like her. She, of the losers in the midterms, she's my favorite. And my least is, of course, dear old Beto.
Yeah, which is a media creation.
My family is from El Paso, and he is the most successful state and national political candidate to come out of El Paso, which is a huge city that is Hispanic majority, that is always kind of the stepchild of Texas urban centers. So there's a part of me that's like, I'm glad that they've produced a star.
Right.
But I just, and certainly Ted Cruz should have won by 15 points, and he didn't.
Correct.
But there's just something about him. I don't know what it is that I don't buy his performance.
The skateboarding.
Sure. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Okay, it's time for our last question.
Yes.
Ready? Mm-hmm. What was your favorite part of this interview?
I think my favorite part of this interview, and I know it right off the top of my head, other than seeing you, which has been a while, is when you were a weird little bitch about your brilliant comedy routine.
Well, you are welcome.